I wanted to shoot a quick video with my former client, Eric. Eric's out in Boston right now, and we're trying this over Google Meet, so we'll see how efficacious this is. But my name's Charles. I'm the owner of Axis Muscle Activation in Bellingham, Washington. And Eric had a unique story when we started working together, and I figured that'd be really great for a little long-form interview. And so Eric, out in Boston, why don't you tell me about your experience? Like, what was it like when we got started? How are you doing when we got going together?
Absolutely. So the background on me, I'm a fairly tall guy, 6'3", and I had a slipped disc in the classic tall guy place since I was 18 years old, bicycle riding lifestyle. And it had flared up and caused me issues on and off for basically 10 years. And when I first met Charles, it was after the worst flare-up I'd ever had, which came in conjunction with me starting a sit-down office job, hunched in a chair all day. And I started to have really powerful nerve pain in my back and down my left and then eventually into my right leg. And it meant that I could not functionally walk. I was losing range of motion, losing strength, developing more and more pain. And I let this go on for the better part of a year. And by the end of that point, I had tried regular physical therapy from a doctor. I had had steroid injections in my spine. I had tried cupping. I was doing deep tissue massage for 2 hours a week. I was stretching and doing yoga on my own for 3 to 4 hours a day, and a host of other things, acupuncture, you name it, I was trying it. And I could not walk, and I could not sit in a chair for any duration of time without extreme pain. So that meant I was basically standing up or lying down. And for someone with kind of an athletic lifestyle and who really enjoys the physical world, I was a functional cripple. And it had been that way for so long that I obviously was no longer riding bicycles or going rock climbing or going out hiking. I could not do anything. I was living my life from my front porch. And I was coming to grips with the idea that this might be the way my life continued forever. I did not have any real faith that I was going to get better, and doctors were telling me that the next step was to have surgery to cut out part of that troublesome disc, and it was a really dark time.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think when you came in, somebody had connected us basically, and I think when you were kind of coming to my office, I already got a lay down on some of these details from you. I think maybe via email or from the friend, and I had used this technique for a while and had some bravado around it because it was getting great results with my clients. And I remember that interchange between the two of us. You were a little irritable. You were a little less than happy. It took a lot of effort to get you. We were in that space I was in was subterranean. So it actually had an elevator that we had to get you in to get you down the stairs, out away from the stairs. And I think it was interesting because you were, like you said, you were an active guy. You were 26, I think around there age wise. I was told that you were like a cyclist and a rock climber. And so these were some things you had not done for a while. I think it was like 13 months or so when you told me how long you've been dealing with these problems at that point. And yeah, I mean, tell me about that first experience or those first few experiences when you were trying MAT for the first time.
You were presented to me as sort of a miracle worker. And I had been in a lot of pain for a long time, and it was really wearing me down. So when I came in and met you for the first time, you were very, very personable, very confident, but you also said, "Oh yeah, sure. We ought to be able to fix this without, this should be fairly straightforward." And yeah, I think you told me that I would probably go climbing again in a couple of weeks. And in my mind, it's sort of like, you've got to be kidding me. Who is this guy? I can't walk and my life is imploding around me. So I was primed from prior experiences with interventions to be very suspicious. And I thought you were probably full of it. And I think I could go and look this up to be sure, but I think it was 2 weeks later, I went to my climbing gym and climbed again for the first time in a long time. And I wasn't a rock star. I wasn't back to 100%, but I would never even have considered going there before starting to work with you. And a couple weeks later, as promised, I was in there gingerly, but progressively climbing and getting back into the stuff I loved. And that applied to all aspects of my life. That was sitting down, that was walking, that was living a normal lifestyle. And yeah, it was kind of miraculous from my end.
Yeah, from my perspective too, the guy I saw on day one versus the guy like 2 weeks later was a much different fellow. You came down the stairs too. That was the other thing that kind of shocked me. I'm usually meeting you into my office, and I think we had a front desk person that could help you get down the elevator. But I was outside my office and you came down the stairs, which for me was like a little mind altering. And then you came up and you shook my hand. And you had a grin on your face. And these are also mind altering things. You were not a smiley guy the first time I saw you and the second time I saw you. So to see somebody walking down the stairs, smiling, shaking my hand, that was like our third or fourth session. Even though I had the confidence, I think on day one, I was still pretty perplexed or surprised that you were doing so well that fast. So that was really cool to see. And then to hear you say like you were climbing again, I think there were moments when we were talking that in that context early on where you were saying like, oh, I was going to give some things up, but now I'm back to some of those sports again.
Yeah, I had given them up. They were parts of my past by the time I started working with you.
Yeah, that was really cool. And then in the context too, so people can understand, you were a younger guy, you were pretty healthy, but you had a bad run. You had a year where things were spiraling a little down, and then doctors were telling you that some invasive things needed to happen soon to brunt this. But we kind of got you going with a non-invasive modality, muscle activation techniques, to a better place. In the context of that, I think you started to do some cool things. That's what I want people to hear is you were a very active guy, and then you started to do active things again. Tell us about some of the stuff beyond just the climbing experience. Tell us about other things you started to do.
Yeah, sure. It can't have been that long between the time I started working with you and when this happened, but and obviously I was very dedicated. I was putting in a lot of time beforehand to things that weren't working. So when you gave me tools and techniques that were working, I was like a kid in a candy shop. And I think probably within 6 months or so, again, not sure, I took a solo motorcycle trip from San Francisco out kind of across the states and into Utah, lapped around Utah, a lot of off-road, big bike, dropping the bike, picking the bike up, like a pretty physically demanding stuff, camping every night, doing repairs on the trail side. And through it all, there's always this thing lurking in the back of my mind, which is if I screw up out here, is my back or is my leg going to fail me and put me in danger? And they were as strong as I could ask for. There was no pain. There were no issues, no complications. And I felt stronger than I had in a long time.
That's really awesome. Yeah, I think for me, as a guy who loves adventure, hearing somebody come back from a trip like you had at the time when you came back and told me like things went okay, it was kind of a huge relief because I know how much you say you were doing on this trip just now, but I know how much goes into it physically. You're sleeping on the ground, you're obviously in a confined position on the bike. You're having to pick the bike up, fix the bike, and you're experiencing roads that maybe aren't the best. And your body putting up with that is pretty huge. It kind of again speaks to your muscle system just being better, kind of being worked on and being more improved from where you were prior to working together. And then for me, it's just a really cool release. I'm like, all right, this is working and this person's back. They're doing their thing. And that changed. I know this is everybody's story is unique, but your story is really unique to me because you kind of went off and did something afterwards once you got better results and you were feeling really good and you had this trip to Utah go well. You made up a new change of plans for your life. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the Utah trip ended up being kind of like a blueprint for what was planned as a slightly larger endeavor and turned into a quite a major endeavor. About a year to the day after leaving on the Utah trip, I liquidated my life in San Francisco and left on a different motorcycle with the intention of driving it to South America. I thought I'd be gone for about 3 months. It ended up being more like 2.5 years. And I drove a third-hand, really junky used motorcycle from San Francisco to Patagonia, the bottom of Argentina. Wow. And then turned around and drove it back to Boston. So about 45,000 miles, 20 some countries, who knows how many borders. And through it all, I really never thought about my back or my leg or that whole dark chapter because, and this is the thing that I really am obsessed with for the treatment that you gave me. It's not like I needed you to fix me. It's not like if something went wrong, I needed to get myself on an airplane back to you to get fixed. You gave me these tools and these techniques, which I still use today. And I feel like I should probably be paying you a retainer for or something. But I have these really simple, easy techniques that I can do with no equipment and no nonsense. And in 5 minutes, sometimes I feel my legs starting to feel a little bit wonky and I can fix that. And that is the most empowering experience I've ever had with medicine.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I don't talk too much about the ongoing homework side of things that I give to clients. Some people are intimidated by that because it means they have to do stuff on their own. But to speak to that, just so people understand, the modality has a technique where we improve muscle function in a session, and then we give clients homework. And that homework is a pretty specific isometric exercise. And if you know what isometric is, then you're probably already ahead of the game. But it basically means you're creating contractions into a fixed position. And we do that in a biased way so that the individual muscles we're targeting get a great cue to engage and hold tension again. And then the client, after they've done what they're called is positional isoangular contractions is what our acronym shortens down to PIC for. So we give people pick isometrics, and they do them for those simple muscles that we're not seeing engaged, that they're neurologically weak. And then when they do them afterwards, they usually feel, like Eric is saying here, they usually feel better, they move better, and then they can load those tissues a lot more optimally. So we give people exercises to jumpstart their nervous system, and then they can do continued exercising or activities they love, and they'll notice they get better results because of it. And that's what kind of Eric's talking about. And I don't mention that much, but that is a good part of it, especially for people like Eric who are going to go do big, hairy, crazy athletic and physical goals. It's like really important that we give them some pieces that they can come back to in case they're out there in Utah or they're out there in South America and Patagonia, and they need to fix themselves on the side of the trail. So that's really cool that you did this huge cross-continent motorcycling experience. I'd love to have like 20 more minutes to talk about that. I just don't know if everybody's as interested in the details. But you and I connected recently because you had some stuff going on with your shoulder, and we gave you some tools to kind of fix that on your own. And that's what kind of prompted us to talk. But really the big reason I wanted to talk is because your story was so cool. And along the way, you sent other people my way, which was really nice. How do you talk to MAT for other people? Like, how do you engage people and tell them what this is in your own words?
Yeah, I'm probably not the best poster child or pitch man for MAT, but like it or not, I'm out there talking about it fairly frequently because I meet a lot of people who have, similar injuries or similar physical challenges that come from either misuse or lack of use or overuse or whatever it is. And for me, what MAT is it's a way to reconnect your brain with your muscle tissues. And as I understand it, when you are hurt or when you have pain or when something is damaged, your body tries to protect you by keeping you from doing the thing which hurts you. And over time, and this is certainly has been the case for me in a few different ways, your muscles stop responding and they basically lose contact with your mind, with your brain. And then when your brain calls on your body to do something, it's working with fewer tools than it should have. It doesn't have access to the real muscles that should be performing that action. So other muscles have to step in and pick up the slack. And over time, this just wears away and it degrades your capacity for smooth, strong, functional motion. And MAT, and as I understand it, is helping to reestablish that connection between the body and the brain. And the crazy thing is that it works. And, you've been working with me again. This time I came back, I had some shoulder injuries and, again, just like a very active lifestyle. And within 60 seconds of starting the routine that you gave me most recently to help stabilize my right shoulder, I could feel things in my back and under my shoulder blade waking up, for lack of a better word, this sort of like electrical ringing feeling in these muscles that it's a crazy feeling. You know that it's happening when it happens. And we're doing this all remotely. You haven't been able to actually touch me and work on these things face to face, but even just through the camera, you were able to diagnose what's not working for me. And the difference, like 5 days ago, I was not riding a bike. I spent all weekend riding a bike.
Nice. Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard just for anybody who's watching and going, hey, let's do all this stuff remote, Charles. It's tough. I mean, Eric knows his body and he's gone down this road with me before. So it's very easy to tell him to do things and then see things on the camera the way I need to see them because he kind of knew how his body was presenting. So easier with the person that really knows their stuff, but definitely it's a useful tool. Those positional iso-angular contractions or picks are a really useful tool. And that's what Eric is using right now. And hopefully at some point you'll connect with somebody in Boston and they can just carry this forward. But that's a good point to talk to. I think there's a lot of people in the physical therapy world that have a lot of tools. I'm only using one tool, which is just this modality. And we're seeing for people like you that have had, I think 13 months of discomfort before you saw me initially in the past when we were in San Francisco. We're seeing that I can use this one tool and create a great outcome, especially for a physical athlete like you. And it's really like a thing that people can marry to what they're already doing. If you're out there and you're wondering, how does MAT kind of work with my modality? It's something that marries really well to massage and to physical therapy, those kinds of things, because it's not changing things. It's just doing its functional approach. And then if you wanted to do massage or if you wanted to add exercise, you would just see the client probably get even better. So something I always tell people is like, you could do this. If you were somebody else and had other tools, you can marry this to those tools. It works really well with exercise too. So Eric, anything else you would say about kind of your experience too, because your experience is so unique. Anything else that you can remember anecdotally from when we were working together?
I do remember thinking this guy is, I don't know who this guy thinks he is, but like the idea that you're going to fix me with your thumb, like I
use my other fingers. It's a lot of the other fingers, but yeah, the thumb's in there.
The thumb plays a role.
Yeah.
And yeah. Just this wild idea that you're going to take your hand and just push on these specific spots. And I thought it was a bunch of nonsense, frankly, but I was willing to try anything. If somebody told me to eat chalk, I would have eaten chalk. I was desperate and I was dying, I was losing my life from it. And the thing that is so crazy and so inspiring is that when you put your thumb or your hand on one of these points and apply pressure, you can feel in real time that connection being reestablished. You feel it in real time, and your arm or your leg or your hip will move differently after that pressure.
Yeah.
Very quick response. It's not like go home and do 50 reps and 6 weeks from now you'll feel different.
Right.
You feel it happen in real time. And when I go home and I lay down and I do one of the exercises that you've given me, I feel the same thing. I feel it happen in real time. And knowing that I can go and, bend my knee, stand next to a telephone pole and do something for 10 seconds and have my leg move differently after that. It is such a thrill. It is empowering. You feel like you don't have to go begging for help time and time again. You build a toolkit of things that can help and protect and improve you when you need them.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And that's also, an important thing to reference is that, you'll have continuing work. If a client is interested, you'll always end up with some stuff that you can keep for life, that you can keep testing and trying out. I think the other point you made too about the electricity or the feeling afterwards that, you're making a connection in the session and you're making the muscle work better so you'll move better right afterwards. I had a cool experience recently with a strength coach in Bellingham, and I worked on his leg, and he noticed right afterwards, he's tried things too. He noticed right afterwards, he's like, wow, the mobility is way different. Like I can tell my leg is way different now. And I'm like, it's because it is, like you can go lift your weights tomorrow, bro, and feel a difference. I think that's what he really needed. But I'm like, you're not moving the same way you came in. You have all those muscles firing now. So you do feel different. It's not just psychosomatic. You are different. One of the anecdotes, to kind of speak to the point I raised, one of the anecdotes, I have a couple from our experience. Kind of like three, but one of them was that you came in and you told me one day, you were like, I can sit now. You were like really excited. You're like, I can sit for like 2 or 3 hours now. And I was like, don't know how to put that on my wall of success, but that's great. I'm really happy, Eric. You were like, you don't get it. Like I can go do things now. I can do work. I can go on dates. I can do things that, I
can get in a taxi cab.
Yeah. Yeah. You were just like, I can just sit. I'm like, okay, all right, great success story.
Yep.
But I thought that was funny because it was really relevant to you and it was really important at the time. And I was like, all right, that's awesome, Eric. And then another thing, I think was when we were working together, every time you'd walk, and this is something I want to talk to for a minute, you can go longer if you want, but every time you'd walk, I would hear your feet crackle and pop like Rice Krispie treats. And everybody could tell, we had other specialists that work near me. They could hear that too. And it was, for me, I was telling you like, look, I think there's a lot of stuff going on in your feet. I think if we get down to your feet, we're going to see a huge difference in your whole body. And that point, I think that was right before you launched on your trip to Utah. So this was like, you didn't have time for me to work on your feet. You went to Utah. You had a good trip on your motorcycle. You came back. You said that you were pretty much, doing what you want to do. And I was like, just let me get on those feet, man. And tell me a little bit about that experience for you and what you thought came out of that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you had I made your job harder by waiting so long to come get help in the first place, because I had some problem which through negligence expanded and grew and started to affect more and more areas of my body. And it was just like a growing mass of just pain and dysfunction.
Which can happen, right? Things kind of spiral out of control, but you don't notice it. You're just like, it's kind of bad over here, but I'm going to ignore it for a while until it's in my face.
Yeah, you had to basically chase this thing around and just be fixing one component after another to get closer and closer to what probably, there might have been mechanical stuff not working with me properly for most of my life. And it seems like a lot of that did come from my ankles, which have always cracked and popped like crazy. It's like I'd be the worst cat burglar on earth. And yeah, eventually you were working on my feet and you gave me some really great exercises. They are things that I still, again, do once in a while these days. It's not like I wake up and do an hour of PT ever, but I do know if one of my ankles starts cracking, I got a few dragging techniques with towels and just like ways to again, wake up and recommunicate with my feet. And I don't really know what more to say about it. They don't pop and crack in the same kind of frightening ways that they did before. And when they do, I know what to do about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought that was such an interesting experience for me because every time I'd get you to come in and for treatment and I'd treat you, I'd have you go walk and I'd just be like, my God, dude. Yeah. You would be the worst cat burglar. You just made so much noise. I knew when you were coming back into my office, before you were 5 feet from the door, it was just very obvious that like stuff was happening down there. And as you said, we'd have to chase a lot of things to get eventually down there because big muscles create big changes. We wanted to work in those areas that were really proximal to your pain. But once you were kind of doing a lot of things, I was able to get the chance to work down there. I thought that was a pretty big difference maker. Anytime people come in and something looks or sounds really amiss in their body, it's a good chance the body is compensating around it. And I really felt like from your history with basketball and having bad ankles and feet, I'm just like, there's a good chance he was walking around on an unstable surface. Like your feet were just unstable. So your spine and your hips were having to brace and engage in ways that they wouldn't have to if your feet were working great. So, could have been a catalyst. Always something to think about. But yeah, man, that was great. I think that covered a lot of bases for people that might be interested in this modality that want to hear some stories and connect with people. If somebody's out there listening and they're on the fence, what would you tell somebody like about this as a person who's tried it?
please try it before you go and have somebody cut something out of you. There's a
Yeah.
way back, like what you were saying earlier, Charles. You're saying it is going to be supplemental to anything you're already doing, and it's true. It will make everything else that you're doing work better. It will give you tools that you can keep with you for the rest of your life, which is really the thing that blows me away about this. Like, I don't have to pay somebody every time I need to fix my leg. I just fix my own leg and it works. You know,
Yeah.
don't don't do something that you can't undo before
That's a good
trying
point.
this.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because that surgery and maybe artificial limbs or something, those are big invasive processes that people maybe could stave off if they're just doing more for their body. And thanks for making that point. And then also, it's like you said, it's a supplement. So if they're already working with a PT or massage therapist, this is just going to help out. We're only with MAT, I should say, we're only trying to make the muscles do their job better. We're trying to optimize the weak tissues so that the people out there can just do their job and do their activities better. Well, thanks, Eric. I really appreciate you doing this for me. And I hope that people watching really get something out of this. I feel like if there's more questions that get raised, that's a good outcome from this. And if there's also, some people that mention you directly, that'll be awesome too, because you've got a really unique story. So hopefully people enjoy this, and then I'll do some more of these like this in the future, because this was fun, man. I appreciate it.
Dude, I appreciate it. Really. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, man. Well, go rock your day. Go have a good rest of your afternoon in Boston. Enjoy it. I'm sure it's warm out there, and I will check in with you later, man.
Sounds like
See
a
you,
plan.
bud.
Take it
All
easy,
right.
buddy.
Bye.